Today, we're going to dive into a pretty radical idea. What if your life wasn't just a series of random events? What if it had a hidden shape, a kind of secret architecture that you could actually learn to read? I mean, think about it. Do you ever look back and feel like your life is just a jumble of disconnected moments? A project here, a job there, a big move. Does it ever feel like you're just kind of bouncing from one thing to the next without any real clear path? But what if that feeling of chaos is, well, just an illusion? What if, hiding underneath all of that, there's a structure, a recurring pattern that, once you see it, could totally change how you navigate your future? That is exactly what we're going to get into. So let's give this a name. We're going to unpack this powerful concept from a researcher named Oliver Ding, and it's called the dramatic life pattern. You can think of it like a special pair of glasses that helps you see the invisible architecture of your own life. Okay, so what in the world is a dramatic life pattern? In simple terms, it's a recurring structural setup in your life. But let's break that down. This isn't just some random habit, like biting your nails. It's much deeper. Think of it more like the foundational blueprint of a house. It's a core structure that's so significant you can actually use it to your advantage. And this is where it gets really, really cool. Most of us, we focus on the what of our lives, right? The things we do, like designing a project or making a strategy. But the real magic, the real power, is in the how. That's the pattern, the timing, the sequence, the way events relate to each other. It's the hidden blueprint of your life, not just the individual bricks. And why use the word dramatic? Well, it's because these patterns aren't trivial. They pop up from your actual real-life experiences, not from some textbook. They involve real turning points, real stakes, and real consequences. But here's the most important part. Once you recognize a pattern, you can actually do something about it. Okay, so let's get practical. Let's put on our detective hats. We're going to go hunting for these patterns in a place we usually just ignore. The gaps. Those transitional moments between our big projects. So this visual shows how we normally see our lives. Just a sequence of big blocks, right? Project 1, then Project 2. But what we're urged to do here is zoom in on that critical space in between, what the source material calls the gap project. See, this isn't wasted time. It's a space for reflection, for discovery, and it's where some of the most important patterns start to show themselves. Let's look at our first specific pattern. It's called curation as closure. Think about it for a second. At the end of a really big project, do you ever find yourself instinctively organizing everything, summarizing it, putting it all into a neat little package? That's not just you being tidy. That's a structural pattern you use to get closure and make sense of what just happened before you can move on. Now, let's flip over to the other side of that gap. We've got a pattern here called right after talk. This is something that happens at the start of a new project. Maybe you quickly jot down a few ideas, but then almost immediately you go find people to talk to. You're using conversation, you're using dialogue as a tool to really flesh out and shape those early thoughts. It's a pattern for jumpstarting your creativity. And here is the key, the big takeaway from all this. These are not just personality quirks. They are recognizable, predictable structures. And once you can actually see them, you can stop just letting them happen to you and start using them on purpose as a strategy. This right here is where this whole idea becomes an absolute superpower. Because recognizing patterns isn't just about understanding your past. It's about gaining this incredible ability to predict and maybe even shape your future. This brings us to what's called a meta-pattern, and it's called anticipatory analogy. It sounds a little academic, I know, but the idea is actually super simple. It's that moment when you realize that a situation you're in right now has the same underlying structure as something you've been through before. It's like seeing the same opening moves in a new chess game. And that recognition lets you anticipate what's probably going to happen next. So how do you actually put this to work? It's really just a 4-step process. First, you identify a pattern from your past. Step 2, you recognize a similar structure unfolding right now in the present. Step 3, based on that similarity, you predict a possible outcome. And finally, and this is the most important part, you act strategically based on that prediction. You're no longer just reacting to life. You are actively anticipating it. And listen, this isn't just some small tweak in how you think. As the source material puts it, this transforms development from reactive response into strategic engagement. You literally go from being a passenger to being a co-pilot on your own journey. It's a huge shift. So, how do we start doing this in a really practical way? Well, the final piece of this puzzle is to start thinking of yourself as the lead researcher of your own life. You don't need a lab coat for this. You are in this incredibly unique position to be both the subject and the scientist of your own experience. You're the actor on the stage, and you're also the researcher in the audience, watching for the patterns in the play. It becomes this continuous loop of self-discovery. You have an experience, then you take a moment to step back and identify a pattern within it. You form a little theory about it, when X happens, Y tends to follow. Then, the next time you see that X structure emerging, you can act on your theory and see if your insight was right. And that's the ultimate payoff, right? Your own personal growth stops being something that just passively happens to you. It becomes an active, forward-looking, and deeply strategic process that you are in charge of. The source material wraps this all up with this really beautiful metaphor of a lotus flower. Just like a lotus, our understanding of our own lives isn't a fixed thing. It can keep blossoming and unfolding, revealing new, beautiful dimensions and patterns, but only if we're willing to pay close attention. So as we close this out, just remember that your life isn't just a random string of events. It has a hidden shape, a secret architecture. And the more you learn to see it, the more you can actually shape your own future. So I'll just leave you with this question to think about. What are the hidden patterns in your life, and what are you going to do once you find them?